So what I'd like to talk to you tonight about is, yes, safety stop, but more so about what constitutes an effective brake test. And I'll start off talking about the first brake test that is classified as a brake test. It's done on the road, and it's actually an ADR compliance test. So every vehicle that comes into Australia has to meet the ADR compliance test. What the ADR compliance test is a test where you de-accelerate a car or try to stop a car from 100 kilometers an hour to still stand, and you measure the distance. It has to stop within a certain distance. Obviously the distance for a light vehicle is slightly different than for a heavy vehicle, but essentially that is the first and foremost test that has to be done on every vehicle that comes or is sold in Australia. So let's have a quick look how a test like that could be done.
Did it pass?
Needless to say, this vehicle had a slight problem with front to rear brake balance, imbalances. So that is one way of doing it, of course. The other one that is most well known is the decelerator meter test on the road. So this is where we take a car out on a public road, usually, or it has to be actually a road that is designated by the police. So it's, you take the car out there, you accelerate it to about 35 to 40 kilometers an hour, you hit the brakes, and the decelerator meter measures the stopping distance or the stopping force that the vehicle achieved. Essentially, it is an electronic pendulum. The old ones used to be called tapping meters. Yeah? The biggest problem you have with both on-road brake tests, maybe the 100 kilometers an hour to still stand, or maybe the 35 kilometers an hour decelerator meter test. What it doesn't do is, it doesn't consider how much braking effort each individual wheel produces. Okay, so for instance, this test here, the rear left wheel was not operating, but the total deacceleration still passed it, so you would actually pass most likely a car like that on the road with a deaccelerator meter. So then we have two testing methods which are called in-house brake testing methods. And the first one I'll show you briefly is what we call a rolling road or roller brake testers. Okay, so that is a device where you drive each individual axle into a set of rollers. The rollers then start to turn the wheels. The driver starts to apply the brakes. And as the brakes, when you apply enough braking effort, usually only with about 60, 70, 80 Newton, the wheels will actually lock on the rollers and throw it out of the roller brake tester. So that's how you measure braking effort on each individual wheel. I think we got a little thing here to show how to do that. So turns in between the two rollers. Basically you start to apply the brakes a little bit. Okay. And then, of course, last but not least, there is what we call a plate brake testing machine. And what I might do is, if you don't mind, I'll show you a quick video on this particular form of plate brake test. It's a safety stop, and after the video I talk about safety stop and how it became about.
You simply drive onto the stainless steel test track at walking pace and stop the vehicle. Then roll forward a little and pull on the handbrake. Now the test is completed, it's that easy and safe. The safety stop brake and wheel alignment report is printed automatically.
Essentially, this is a stretch of road. And what we have done is we have put very accurate sensors underneath the road. And that allows us to measure the 4 patches of tires that touches the ground at any given time. And on hand of that, we can determine how the car would stop in a brake emergency situation. We can determine tire wear on the car. We can obviously make corner weights, axle weights and total weights of a motor vehicle. And we also can do a suspension test. So that is what a test lane like that can do. So let's talk about brake testing. Can everybody see the monitor up there? So, I said underneath here are very accurate sensors. Well, have a look. If I push this plate forward with my little finger, can you see on the second line how the numbers already start to increase? On the right hand side, that's from that tiny little bit of pressure all the way through to a ton of braking effort is what the precision sensor underneath here measures. As you saw on the video, we roll the car nice and slowly across here. When the front wheels are on these pads, a big stop sign comes up, and then the operator hits the brakes hard. Bang! Pressurizes the braking system. And so what we do is we make sure, or we measure, how does the braking effort get distributed to each individual wheel, and is the brake force, braking pressure actually getting to the wheel, or does it get interrupted by AC's caliper, a block brake hose, Sorry Stuart, just tell us quickly, you had a car the other day and it failed the brake test, but it wasn't the brakes, it was actually
the actual bearing there. It was floating in the hub. But it had bits of oil coming out of it onto the shoe, but it didn't show out on the outside of the car.
Okay.
And the bearing didn't make any noise. It was just floating around.
Right. And then obviously again, so that diminished the force that the car would hit on a brake emergency situation. And, you know, how else would you find something like that? I think, unless you pull the braking system apart and everything, but let's face it, on every service that we do, we're not pulling the whole braking system apart, no. Okay? So, come a little bit closer please, I want to show you how the report is actually distributed. So, one of the things when we designed these machines, these safety stock test lanes, this is an overnight success, okay? That took 20 hard years of dedication and work and research and development to get there. So one of the things we had to implement was not just improve the accuracy of testing systems like that, but we also had to turn it into a customer interaction tool. So Jerry and Gary can actually make some money out of this as well, because let's face it, on the end of the day, you've got to get paid for something like that, okay? In Europe, for instance, these type of brake testers are mandatory for what we call over here pink slip or IAME brake testing, okay? Here, it is not mandatory. Here, the minimum standard is the accelerometer meter, but you obviously have operators who see the benefit of actually providing a better testing method to their customers. And so what we've done is we've designed a printout that a layman can actually understand. So one of the things we've done is, and this is a world's first, as the first brake tester in the world, we actually provided photo proof. So one of the things we do here is, that's why there's a camera that actually points down to it. When you hit maximum brake force, it takes a photo of the car and it date and time stamps. So that does two things. First of all, it gives trust to a customer that they know it was their car. So hey, we failed the brake test, but it definitely was your car. So that's a trust thing that I do. The other thing, of course, what it does is, it protects your business. Because when the customer leaves here with their cars, we can actually prove to them that everything was in the green, therefore everything was fine. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's one of the key things what we're saying here, is reduce your risk to the business, because you can actually prove when the car left here. So I'm going back into the braking effort. You can see here inside the wheel, in Newton, how much braking effort each individual wheel produced. The rear left wheel did not produce hardly any braking effort. This particular car was actually a seized caliper slide. Okay. How do you actually find a seized caliper slide without doing a test on it? How would you find that at the moment? Anybody give me a clue? Pull it apart, and again, but what I'm saying is, like on a standard service, you're not pulling everything apart, are you? So I guess the only way that you really can determine it is by pad wear. Would that be fair enough to say? So you check the pad wear and suddenly you see, hey, these pads are not wearing. Or you might have cars where we've replaced 3 front brake pads already, but never the rear. So then you start to understand that the front to rear balance might not be right, or one wheel is not working correctly. The problem with all these methods is that the car has to travel once around the whole world with faulty brakes until we actually can physically see it. Right? So the idea of a test like that is that we actually nip it in the bud before it potentially becomes a dangerous situation. Because one of the things we've got to be clear is, just because this wheel doesn't work here, doesn't mean the car doesn't stop. In normal circumstances it will stop, it's not a problem. Okay? Especially these days with ABS, it's not going to lock up one wheel and throw you out and all that. But if you need to do an emergency stop from 100 kilometers an hour to still stay, will it take longer? Because you disconnected one wheel? Most likely it will. I don't know by how much, 2 meters, 3 meters? Most rear end accidents, if I could have stopped 2 meters earlier, I would have avoided a crash. And if we can bring that across to the customer that brings his car here for service, or her for service, then I think you've got a good chance that that customer is going to come back to you, for the next service again, because they actually provide with something there. Does it make sense so far? Yeah? Cool. The first thing it does is it measures the front axle height. The next thing it does is it measures the front alignment. It then comes to this sensor here. 2 things have happened. First of all, I know how long it took to travel from here to here, therefore I know how fast he's traveled. And you've got to be within 3 to 6 kilometers an hour. Once it's past this sensor here, it will be on the brake plates, not on the alignment plate anymore. That's when it's time to hit the anchor and hit the brakes hard. Okay, so everything is fully automatic. You don't have to press the button or anything like that. That is what the safety stop line does. So it just rolls across here, nice and slowly. Front wheel's on here, hits the brakes hard. Puts it into drive, forward. Next time he sees the stop sign, he pulls the handbrake. Test is finished.